On the global economic map, ports are often symbols of power and influence. In recent years, China has expanded its port network around the world through its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, and the Port of Chancay in northern Peru is one of the keynotes. As far as I know, the port was built with an investment of $1.3 billion by COSCO Group, which owns 60% of the operating rights. It is expected that the Port of Chancay will be completed and put into use in 2024. It will not only be one of the most important ports in South America, but also a strategic hub connecting Asia and South America. However, just as the project was on track, an unexpected policy change could change the entire game. In March this year, the Peruvian government made a major decision and attempted to cancel COSCO Group's exclusive right to operate the port. Although the legal proceedings will not affect the construction of Chancai Port, this wrong decision will cause a big blow to China's strategic layout. Once China loses its port operating rights, it will also lose its strategic commercial and port hub between Asia and South America, and all investments will be in vain. So why did Peru suddenly cancel China's operating rights to the port? How will this port affect commercial and strategic relations between Asia and South America in the future? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Peru, a country located in western South America, has become a transportation hub in the region due to its unique geographical location. It borders Ecuador and Colombia to the north, Brazil and Bolivia to the east, and the vast Pacific Ocean to the west. It has a coastline of 2,254 kilometers, accounting for 11% of the country's total area. This geographical advantage makes Peru an important maritime transportation hub in South America and brings huge development potential to its economy and trade. During its long development history, Peru has built 24 ports with excellent port facilities, including 19 seaports, 4 river ports, and 1 lake port. This is enough to show that its water transportation system is relatively developed. However, although some ports are equipped with advanced infrastructure, most are still limited by outdated equipment and inefficient loading and unloading operations, an issue that has become a major challenge limiting Peru's economic development potential. In order to break through this situation, in 2011, the Peruvian government announced the construction of a giant new port about 80 kilometers north of the capital Lima. This ambitious project aims to revolutionize the country's maritime economic system. However, due to Peru's weak industrial base, it is almost unable to afford the construction of such a modern large-scale port in the early stage. Just when the situation seemed to be at a stalemate, China's One Belt, One Road initiative brought unprecedented development opportunities to Peru. In 2019, Peru officially responded to China's One Belt, One Road initiative, rapidly deepening the cooperative relationship between the two countries. Subsequently, the two sides also reached a landmark cooperation. China's COSCO Shipping Group will invest $1.3 billion to help Peru build the Chancai Port project. According to the agreement, Chinese companies will hold 60% of the shares of the port. Port of Chancay is strategically located about 58 kilometers away from Lima, the bustling capital of Peru, and it is located in a natural deepwater port with a maximum water depth of up to 16 meters. The project's start is scheduled for May 2019. The construction of this new port is not only expected to greatly enhance Peru's logistics and trade capabilities, but also open up an efficient new channel for Chinese goods to enter the South American market. So, how important is this port to China? As far as I know, the construction of Chancai Port is of strategic significance to China. This new port on the east coast of the Pacific has always been regarded as a bridge between Asian and South American markets. In particular, The Port of Chancay is likely to open a direct route to Asia, providing a more efficient and direct logistics channel for trade between South America and Asia. The port is expected to be completed in September 2024 and will be able to handle approximately 1.5 million TEUs and 6 million tons of cargo each year. It will not only become another important node on China's maritime Silk Road, but also become a major transportation hub in the South Pacific region. This status will greatly promote the development of foreign trade between Peru and its neighboring countries and completely change the existing pattern of South American maritime logistics and trans-Pacific trade. Currently, the route from South America to China requires stops in Central America, Mexico, or the United States, and the sailing time usually takes more than 45 days. Not only does this route take a long time at sea, but once U.S. policy changes, it may have an impact on this route. However, the existence of the Port of Chancay will directly reduce the sailing time by at least 10 days, which not only speeds up the flow of goods, but also reduces dependence on routes via the United States. This ensures the stability and security of trade between China and South America to a certain extent. After 5 years of construction, the first phase of the Port of Chancay is about 85% complete. In this process, China has also directly created 1,500 local jobs and indirectly brought 7,500 jobs, which has greatly improved the living standards and economic conditions of local residents. In addition, Chinese companies have expanded multiple ports in Latin America, covering infrastructure projects including port investment, 5G mobile network construction, construction of major roads and bridges, and the establishment of space monitoring stations. These projects aim to strengthen China's economic ties with Latin American countries, improve the region's infrastructure, and promote regional development. All these projects are expected to be completed and put into operation by the turn of December 2024, by which time the port will further promote economic prosperity and social progress in the region. However, the Peruvian government is now directly suing China and even wants to cancel COSCO Group's exclusive right to operate the port. What is going on? In fact, the story behind the Chancai Port project is quite complicated. As early as 2021, the Peruvian government passed a series of judicial procedures and finally granted COSCO Shipping to control 60% of the operating rights of Chancai Port. However, the situation took a dramatic turn in March 2024 when the Peruvian National Port Authority unilaterally announced the termination of the cooperation agreement with China on the grounds of correcting administrative errors. It also sought to formally abrogate the agreement through legal channels, thus canceling China's operating rights in the project. But it needs to be emphasized that although the Peruvian government is trying to regain the exclusive operating rights of the port, they still hope to cooperate with COSCO Shipping to ensure that the construction of the port is completed on schedule. But what makes us curious is why Peru made such a decision. As far as I know, in the past 5 years, Peru's political scene has experienced violent fluctuations, with more than 5 presidents, and the positions of senior officials such as ministerial and conference prime ministers have also changed frequently. This political instability has undoubtedly weakened the country's stability and policy predictability. Especially after Peruvian President Dina Boluarte took office, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken urged her to promote reforms and encourage Peruvian government agencies and private institutions to take all necessary measures. This diplomatic move may also be one of the reasons that allowed Peru to regain shipping rights to the Port of Chancay. At the same time, the Peruvian Port of Chancay is likely to be affected by U.S. geopolitics. At the 2023 APEC meeting, Peruvian President Boluarte spoke highly of the Port of Chancay, believing that it is an important example of Chinese investment in promoting free trade and has given Peru a special status on the international stage. It is understood that the Port of Chancay is located about 70 kilometers away from Lima, the capital of Peru. Once completed, this port will become South America's gateway to Asia. Therefore, The United States is worried that China may increase its strategic influence around the world by controlling the important infrastructure of this key mining country. In fact, the Financial Times mentioned in a report last year that the United States had expressed concerns to the government of President Dina Boluarte in Peru. The United States believes that China's expansion in Latin America may weaken U.S. influence in the region. In the context of this great power game, Peru's policy adjustments were inevitably affected by external political pressure, and it decided to revoke China's right to operate the Port of Chancay. Although it has been nearly 2 months since the Peruvian government decided to cancel the Chancai Port project, the final outcome of the negotiations between the two parties has not yet been made clear. But it is undeniable that if China eventually loses control of the Chancai Port, it will be a huge investment loss. China's investment in Peru is not limited to the Port of Chancay, but also includes key projects such as the construction of 5G mobile networks, important transportation infrastructure such as roads and bridges, and space monitoring stations. These are important components of China's global infrastructure network. If these investments are compromised for political reasons, it may have an impact on China's future strategic deployment around the world. For Peru, if the decision to unilaterally cancel the Chancai Port project is really made, it is likely to have a negative impact on its international reputation and investment environment. When a country suddenly changes key economic policies or withdraws major project agreements without sufficient consultation, such behavior may be seen as policy instability and unpredictability, which in turn affects the confidence of international investors. So far, many countries and international investors have expressed concerns about the security, stability, and reliability of Peru's political and economic environment. This uncertainty may make other potential foreign investors more cautious when considering working with Peru, and may even cause them to abandon their investment plans in Peru. This is also an important challenge for Peru. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.